Morning, folks. This is Ras, and we're 2 days out from another SVS. We'll look at the opponent in a minute. There's been talk about defenses and some of the information that's out there. I got to put some 2 cents in. I'm going to start with something that's been said about the era of the T1 trap is over. Okay. What this means is that if you have a trap keep that worked 2 years ago against the opponents we were fighting then, I got my wings 3 years ago with 100 million T1s. And so some of you think you got 400 million T1s, that you got a defense. Well, that was good for a time in a season. Now we'll talk about what we're fighting now. And the main thing I want to talk about is debuff. So, first, I'm going to show, these all say attacks lost. But if you look at the points, I shaved points off of this, I think it was a K41. These were solo attacks. Okay, I did this because this player attacked my wife with siege, and they used all their sub-cities and sub-gens and knocked themselves out, so I peppered them. I just hammered them, I think is what happened. And so if you'll look at this situation here, this is how I knew I could do it. I want you to look at my siege attack, my siege debuffs, their siege buffs, their siege debuff. Okay, this is horrible. Bad, bad, bad. And I was able to clear out all of this, zero that layer. Wasn't much there, but all the way down, took out siege. Well, the next attack, I sent the range troops because there wasn't any siege to really stop me. Now look at the big point difference. Okay. That's 500 million power to my good. And we'll look at this screen here. My range buff's almost 4K now, but look at the key things. There and there. Almost no debuff. Almost no debuff. These are important buffs against the range, and they're not very good either. So if your buffs are around where this keeps is, you need to get them higher, because a lot of these attackers have higher buffs than me. But I want to show you this situation. Okay, so this keep has flat refined 700 million T1s. I was only able to take out 27 million of them. So that kind of a T1 trap, it was able to stop my march. Will show how many of, okay, I was able to take out, they had about 100 million T2s. I was able to take out 5 million of those. Those are only like 1 and 2 points apiece. Okay, but look at what I was able to take off of them. 3.9 million T15s, that many T14s, and so on down the line. These are worth like 72 points apiece. So that's over 210 million points I got off just that one layer alone. So it wasn't a one tap, but this one was 7 million to the good for me. And because there weren't any high tier mounted troops in there, I was able to send my ground march, and I took out like it's almost everything. He didn't have a lot of high tier troops in there, but let's go down here. You can chop these things down. Like all of the T2 layers gone. And a lot of this, it's still stopping things, but the important thing is this right here sucks. And I was able to take basically 3 tap. I got over 1 billion points off this one keep hitting it. And my march was 5.8 million troops. We're probably fixing to fight a keep that has 6.1 million troops in my march right there. We're probably about to fight a keep that has a 7 million troop march and probably between 4,000 and 5,000, maybe over 5,000 buffs. So it's going to do something more than this. So let's go over to my defense. This was a siege attack. I'm not going to talk about siege attacks here. I'm only going to talk about range attacks. Let me make sure. Yeah, that was a siege attack. They opened up with a siege. Okay, and this one probably is the range attack. Okay, here I'm facing a rally, and we actually won this exchange after they killed all my siege, and I'm going to show you why here in a minute. That adds up to more than what you see here and what you see here. So we win on points. It was a 6,000 range buff, and my debuffs are a hell of a lot higher than what I was hitting earlier, like 3 to 4 times higher debuff. And of course I had reinforcements, but this was a big range march. There were 64 million troops in that march coming against me. So 64 million troop march and 6,000 buffs I want you to look. My T1 trap is almost gone. Okay. Only 2/3 of it remains. But look at these kills here. 5, 7 million, 9 million troops. You need that to take big rallies. So I'm not saying discard the T1 trap. I'll give you another example of it. Oh, that's Paco. Okay. Here, Lethal takes a rally where we barely won on points. That's more points than this, and these two numbers are the same. They are exactly the same. So we barely went on points, and it is a 29-7. That's almost a 37 million troop rally. Okay. So a 37 million troop rally with 5,000 buffs and her debuff is a little too low to stand up to that. And this is the line, and this is the whole point that I wanted to make. Her debuff is less than 2,000. So this number here, she's still getting hit with over a 3,000 buff. Now watch what happens. Let's go down where she has 700 million T1s. Look what happens. Almost all of it gets wiped. Like, she didn't have much left, but it got nearly 10 million kills. The ground troops did pretty well. They got 1.2 million kills. There's still a lot of them left. This got wiped, hardly any kills. So, if your debuff can't reduce the attack coming at you to lower than 3,000, your T1s are a liability, because that's 583 million points they got off just that one layer with that rally. Your debuff has got to reduce your enemy's attack to less than 3,000 for your T1s, if they're fully refined, fully flat refined, to really do a lot. So the next thing I want to show you is this. It's a range attack. Okay. 230,000 kills, 0 losses from the, from the siege. Okay. And 349,000 kills, 0 losses from the siege. Okay. Now let's go down to the T13s and T12s. Here you have 790,000 kills, 0 losses from the T13 siege. Okay, you keep going down and you'll see that pattern. No losses from the siege layer. They tear up an enemy march pretty good, and they don't take any losses. So in the event of a range attack, siege attacks are free money. Then your problem is defending against siege attacks. That's a different thing. Right now we're talking about T1 traps defending against range attacks. You need to make sure that, that these layers here, I mean, unless you've got enough siege and reinforcements to kill the enemy and it's a rally, you're going to give up a lot of points there if you don't ghost mount. And I don't care what you do to buff in-city mount troops. These range attacks that we're fighting against, they're going to trash them high-tier mounted troops, and that's a lot of points. So you got to ghost them against a range attack. But okay, you look right here, the high-tier ground troop layers, 1.7 million kills, less than 100,000 lost to you. 2.1 million kills, less than 200,000 lost to you. Your ground troops are important against range attacks too. So, and then you can see this was a big, super big range attack, level 48 generals. So when she did not have my reinforcements in there, look how many kills I got just with those two layers alone. We're looking at 7.5 million kills between those layers. I killed a lot of those troops. When I wasn't in there, they zeroed her. So you need to call for reinforcements, and we need to put them in there before they hit, and you can shave points off of them. But here's the comparison. This guy here, level 48, nice generals. Okay, and 5,000 range buff. And, okay, so level 48 generals, 5,000 range buff, and, 7 million troop march, and a rally cap that'll hold that. That's pretty serious. And that's probably what we're facing. Okay. So let's go look at what we're up against. Ranking of enemy server. Monarch power ranking. I've already looked at their generals, but this player here, TMKSA 2030, 27 billion power. That's going to look about like that player I just showed you in this K43, 23 billion power. I've looked at their generals. That's going to look about like what I showed you. So we'll go back in it. I'll show you my wall real quick. Defense. I've got flat refines for T1s. I've got all my pieces, they look like that. I've got flat refines for T1s on my wall. Okay. Now, we'll look at my Thebes Dragon real quick. Okay. And I've got flat refines for Mount HP. It's not the only kind of defense there is in Ebony. It's just the one I've got. It's just a feature of the one I've got. It is a layer. That helps those T1 layers. It is not my whole defense. And that's the point I want to make, is that if you flat refine your wall out, flat refine your dragon out, and you build hundreds of millions of T1s, you have built a defensive layer. And today it is worthless if your debuff is below, I'm going to say 1,800. With this opponent we're fighting, and you might need 2,000 debuff. But, okay, talents. I've got level 77, 92, and 60. And, I mean, I really need them higher than that. But I've got other siege generals and other things that put my in-city buffs up. That's a different discussion. But right here is about where a lot of you are and how it's going to look. You'll get zeroed without reinforcements. Debuff's got to be like higher than this, and hers is now. This is how we learned. If you haven't gone up against this in Battlefield and don't know what your defense does, well, don't think that you have a defense just because you got a couple 100 million T1s and a flat refined wall. You need the debuff. The debuff is the most important thing. So I'm going to write that down. And right, if I can get this thing out of the way. Okay. Debuff is the most important thing in defense. I'm going to leave that there because we have a lot of people in the Alliance who that's the language they speak. Okay. A T1 layer is just a layer. I'm going to leave that there. So that, okay. You need strong siege and ground buffs to stand up to today's opponents, SVS opponents. So, yes, flat refine your wall. This builds a layer of a defense. There is more to it. After that. I think I've about covered everything. If you got any questions in game, that's 25 minutes. All right.